In this next segment, I'm going to show you how to replace the couplers so we can have operating couplers with RailPro. The PS1 couplers are operating couplers, but they work off of 12 volts. The RailPro likes 5 volts, so there's not enough voltage coming out of the RailPro board to open these couplers. So if you buy Protosound 2 or Protosound 3 couplers from MTH, they're a direct replacement, and these work off of 5 volts. So that's a good thing. I decided to leave the existing speaker in place instead of replacing it with this new soundtrack speaker. I bought this for a different project. I thought it might fit in here, and I probably could get it to fit, but I would need to do a lot of modification to the fuel tank, and I just didn't feel like doing that. So I went ahead and did a sound test between the two speakers, and this is what the sound differences are. I can't really tell a difference with my old ears. So that was a main reason why I decided to leave this speaker in. It just fits perfectly. In many of my projects, I find it's just easier to take the entire truck off of the frame and replace the coupler that way. But on this particular model, it looks like I've got a piece here where I can just undo these two screws and probably undo this snowplow here, and I could get the coupler out and replaced pretty simple. Fortunately, I was right. Removed the snowplow, undid these screws here, and this should just snake right out real easy. And we're going to reuse this wire for the new coupler. So we're going to unsolder these wires from the old coupler and put them on the new coupler while we have it out. I just want to give a shout out to some of the train forum people that were recommending this Hakko soldering iron. I'm not the world's greatest solderer, if that's a word, but this new Hakko FX888 has just been a dream. It makes everything so easy. One. To get the coupler off of this metal piece, what you have to do is remove this C-clip here. There's also a washer and then this spring, so it's under some tension. And that holds this little T-bar in place, which holds the coupler in place and allows it to swing. You have to be very careful, put your hand over this or something, because the spring will shoot out and you'll lose your washer and your C-clip. And you don't have to ask me how I know that, because I've done it before. Okay, I'm holding down the washer and the spring pretty tightly just so I can remove this C-clip. And very carefully take tension off the spring and washer, and everything comes apart. So while I have these apart, I want to show you what the main difference is between the Protosound 1 coupler and the Protosound 2 or Protosound 3 coupler. Now, I already painted this one rust color. It really comes black, just like this one. But the real easy way to tell is the Protosound 1 coupler has what looks like electrical tape on the shank there. You can even see the seam of the electrical tape. And there's no tape on the Protosound 2 or Protosound 3. That's just a piece of metal. So that is one of the best ways you can tell. And of course on the bottom, one says patent pending and the other still has the electrical tape. So if you're in doubt what kind of coupler you have, one with electrical tape, Protosound 1, one without electrical tape, probably Protosound 2, Protosound 3. Okay, now it's time to reassemble the coupler assembly. Make sure you have it in the right direction, where it's not accidentally upside down. It goes in this direction here. We're going to put the T piece in. And we put in our spring and our washer, and remember you gotta hold it nice and good so that tension, the spring will fly all over the place. And hopefully it's not too hard to just put this C-clamp right back on where it came from. I'm lucky, sometimes I can push it in with my fingers like that. That's great. Don't need an extra tool. And we are done. This is ready to go. I'm just gonna have to solder those wires back on. when you reinstall everything, there's a piece of shrink wrap on your wire here, and if you're going to put in new wires, you want to also put in a new piece of shrink wrap. And this shrink wrap is sort of loose. It's not really tight. It's tighter up in here, but it's looser up in here. You can actually move it. And the reason why you want that down as low is so the wires don't rub up against this opening when your truck moves and accidentally cut or break into your wires, short out your wires. The shrink wrap tubing helps with that. Now when wiring up your coupler to your LM4, you're going to want to use a diode. So we solder in this diode to your positive lead that goes to the 5 volts positive, with the gray band of the diode headed toward the coupler, and then this end will go toward the LM4 board. When I fire the coupler, it sounds like this. So I've just temporarily hooked things up here just to test this out. So the brown wire is your positive wire, that's the one with the diode. We're going to bring that into the 5 volt source. Now in reality I'm going to have lights and the other coupler hooked up to this 5 volt source, so I'm probably going to have some kind of pigtail coming out of this one where all the 5 volt wires can come into. According to the RailPro directions, there's 6 different colored wires you can use for your outputs, and I just chose the black wire because I've got a black wire here for the coupler. So now in your HC2 remote, we need to program one of these buttons so that it will fire the coupler. And you've got 2 pages worth of buttons here. I don't use the sanding, set, and release at all, so I'm going to use the sanding and the set as my front and rear coupler, and I'll show you how we change that. We're going to hit our tools, then we're going to change the page until we find the loco setup button, and here's those buttons here, and we were on page 2, so we're just going to scroll through all these until we find that sanding action, and there it is, sanding button number 1. It's a sound type, and so what we're going to do now is we're going to change that. So we changed this button to a light type. Even though it's going to be an action, we want it to be a light type. We assigned it to the black wire, so it's an on-off type of action. We put a new icon in here, and we edited the text of this icon to say F coupler for front coupler. And it's a momentary action. We only want the when we push the button to have a momentary signal, fire that coupler. Now we're back at the main screen. You see we have our new front coupler icon here, which replaced the sanding icon. And here's our coupler. Let's see if we can get it to work. There it goes, nice and smooth, popped open. So that's done. Now we have to do the other one, and the couplers are finished. The next part is in the home stretch. I'm going to show you how I install the RailPro board, the battery, the charge port, the on-off switch, and then we're going to button it up and see how it works.